Happy New Year! Welcome back to my channel on truth and thriving in this time of awakening. It's been a while since I was online here with a new YouTube video. It's been full on with Christmas back home in Norway. I'm back in our beautiful house in Sweden now and ready to create more content for you. And I'm excited about that. I think we are headed into another crazy year. I would be very surprised if it doesn't end up being the craziest one yet. And while I, on some level, would prefer that not to be true, things are bubbling to the surface now. What with the Twitter files and the revelations around CIA's involvement in the JFK assassination, we're starting to learn more and more about the things that we haven't been told about the Ukraine conflict. And of course, all of these things are still a little bit on the periphery of the public conversation. And as that is making its way more and more to the front and center of the public conversation, I don't think we can expect anything but a lot of more chaos. But today, I want to focus on propaganda. It's very widespread in the world right now. It's being spread by supranational organizations, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, United Nations, European Union. It's being spread by governments, politicians. It's being spread by the media. It's being spread by NGOs. And of course, it's being spread by alternative news journalists such as myself as well. And so we're all really smushed together in this battle for truth, and propaganda is one of the leading weapons in that fight. Now, my desire throughout 2023 is to spend more time on really looking at solutions, looking at the thriving part, but I am intending to bring more content on truth here at the beginning of the year. I was reading Charles Eisenstein's latest piece just a couple of days ago, and he himself was talking about his desire to focus more on what is coming. Because we appear to have reached a critical mass of awakening. There seems to be a point of no return that has been passed. That's a good thing, I'd say, in terms of the awakening of humanity. But it also means that we're heading into rougher waters. So let us look at the ways in which reality is being stolen from us in order to, push narratives that are convenient for governments, corrupt NGOs, corrupt, supranational organizations, all of these things that we just mentioned. And I was meaning to focus in primarily on one, but I'm going to cover that last. So just briefly go over two others that I've seen quite a lot. Now, the first one is the use of derogatory emotional slurs. Anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, domestic terrorist is a little bit different, but it's almost being put into the same category. But it's kind of this high school language that we have come to, prior to these last 3 years, to associate with pimple-faced adolescents that are fighting for, supremacy in the schoolyard. This kind of emotional incendiary language where we come to form cliques where these are the in group and this is the out group. And of course, this kind of adolescent language, this kind of immature expression has been very effectively been used by various autocratic regimes in the past. And it's obvious why this happens, why you have to call somebody an anti-vaxxer, which is a nonsense term when it generally speaks about somebody who has a healthy level of inquiry into the science behind, or even the list of ingredients behind what is being injected into our bodies. It's naive to just think that this thing is just going to be full of wonder and glorious ingredients that are going to make us really super healthy. So if you have this kind of healthy, mature inquiry into the things that you're doing to yourself, then in a sane society, of course, this is considered adult. This is considered healthy. But we've watched the public debate create this kind of weaponized language to other the group in society that isn't kowtowing or following the instructions to the T that are being pushed out by the various authorities of our culture. And it is a problem. It really is a problem. Of course, there are parallels to what happened, for instance, with the Jews. It's not about the scale of atrocity. It's about the pattern. It is about the dynamic itself, and we can see that dynamic in the first kind of propaganda. So whenever you see an article or news or something using these words, anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, so on and so forth, you're in the face, or you are in the presence of propaganda. And so whatever follows that is likely to be an attempt at rewriting reality. So that is number one. Number two is this tendency that we have seen at sort of inverting reality, where good news is being peddled as bad news and bad news is being peddled as good news. So we might have a kind of news story along the lines of vaccine efficacy is dropping, and here's why that means the vaccines are working. Which sounds kind of absurd, because it is kind of absurd. Actually, up is up and down is down. It's never like up is down and down is up. And that should be a fairly straightforward thing to conclude. So now let's look at the third one, which is what I want to dedicate the most of this to, which is the tendency to use external authority in a kind of weaponized way. Now, anytime there is chaos in the world, people get scared. And of course that happened during the pandemic. And what we saw was that the media, they started to use, shall we say, they started to proliferate a language that they had already been using for many years. And it was something related to experts say that, or XXX experts say, and here is how you can change it, and so on and so forth. You know, so there's this pointing to this amorphous, nebulous idea of experts, and then the articles that you may watch may feature 0 experts named, or maybe may feature some expert that's a celebrity, but that doesn't really have any facts to back up the claims. Like Anthony Fauci has been in that category a lot. He has, of course, generally been spreading his own personal opinion and saying that my opinion is science. But, you know, for the most of us, that's not the case. That is a fairly grandiose statement. And a lot of the other articles that we can see can maybe reference some person that nobody has heard about before, some expert at some backwaters university that we don't know why they're saying what they're saying, if they truly believe in what they're saying, or if they've been paid money, or if they have been threatened or coerced to say what they're saying, whatever it might be. We don't know. But the point being is that there is this tendency to use people's fears to leverage obedience and loyalty to this nebulous term of experts. And this probably is the most dangerous one of them all, because it actually feeds this dynamic of enslavement of the people's psyche and soul. So let's look a little bit at that in more depth here. It's time to stop saying fully vaccinated for COVID, experts say. And here's why. So notice the title. There is this claim, and then there's experts say, and then this here's why is is indicating that the experts are going to give a plausible explanation. And we would assume that that is backed up by copious amounts of facts and peer-reviewed science and empiricism. And what you'll find is that it never is. Like never, practically never. So let's look at a little bit at it. If you still say fully vaccinated for COVID, it's time to stop. Well, conspiracy theorists actually said that from the start because we knew that there was never going to be an end. Now, yes, many will call me a conspiracy theorist because I'm loyal to facts and not propaganda. So we knew this from the start, that these vaccines were never meant to fix the problem, but that they were going to create another very potent revenue stream, and that potentially they also had different, more nefarious intentions. But we're not going to head into that today because, you know, that would get this video banned. So with new boosters on the market and an ever-evolving virus, experts say the term no longer means being the most protected you can be. They point to two far more appropriate alternatives to use in this current phase of the pandemic up to date. With COVID vaccines are simply indicating whether you've gotten your latest booster shots. Yeah, hardly surprising. Hardly surprising given the narrative that we have watched unfold for a while. There is some pointing to Cindy Prince, an epidemiologist at the University of Florida, I don't know who that person is, nobody probably knows, but apparently she is an expert. But there's a problem. There's a problem, and that's a big problem, is that experts, so-called, quote-unquote, have been wrong about almost everything over the last few years. And I'm not going to go through that now, but Kim Everson just did an expose of the 10 most pernicious mainstream media lies that, of course, feature experts on her own channel, and I recommend that you go check that out. I'll put up a little link in the top right corner here now. So, if experts are so good at what they do, how come they never get it right? And how come the so-called conspiracy theorists almost always do? I think it's pretty simple. These people are not beholden to truth. And I don't know that they know that, if they have been paid off, if they have been just coerced, or maybe they actually are just not very high-level experts. That could also be. That could also be. But I think we need to look at, for a moment here, the kind of tendencies or the prevalence of this form of communication. I've took it up, or I opened that on a couple of websites here using Google and the domain filtering. So experts say is an expression used 15,900 times by CNBC.com. NPR.org it has used it 13,300 times. Washington Post has used it 39,700 times. And New York Times takes the crown of propaganda at 106,000 times. Now, it could just be, I don't know how prolific each of these media outlets are. Maybe New York Times is just a more prolific outlet, and that indicates the increased prevalence of that expression. But let's look as well. Let's look here a bit at the prevalence over time. So 12/31, 2022. We can see here 3,700 times in 2022. Let's try a different time frame. This is all of 2021. 4,300. So there were more information featuring the nebulous experts in 2021 than 2022. Go back to 2020. 4,520. That's a lot. So what happened in 2020 is that the pandemic set in, right? So let's see if there was an increased prevalence of this kind of language between 2019 and 2020. 1,580. I found this 2 or 3 times increase ratio on most of these sites. So between 2019 and 2020, these various media outlets that are interested in you doing what you're told, they have increased the prevalence of this particular word combination, experts say, by a factor of 2 to 3x. I haven't checked if this pattern has been consistent with other forms of crisis. Let's quickly check that. Let's go back to, let's say, 2007, before the financial crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis. 574, see? It's been a massive increase in this experts say expression. Let's see if it increased in 2008. 582. That's not a massive increase. So we're trying now to discover if this is a symptom of uncertain times or if it's a symptom of something that is quite new in the media. And based on this, I would say that it is something that is quite new. That our media is using uncertainty to create an image of some class of experts that know everything and that we need to listen to. That would be all well and good if they actually knew what they were talking about. But as Kim Inversion shows in her video, and as I think most of us now know, they were right about almost nothing. And so these 3 forms of propaganda are the ones that came to me as I sat down to make this video. If you can think of any other forms, I would love to hear about them in the comments. But let's just review them. One is this use of bullying, emotional slurs. The second is the use of inversion, that what is good is actually bad and what is bad is actually good. And then finally, we have this use of external authority as a go-to place to regulate the fear that we feel in the face of uncertainty, and that these nebulous experts that are maybe real, maybe not real, they are pointing in the direction of a particular kind of behavior that again and again turns out to be against our best interests as citizen of a, well, hopefully free world. It doesn't seem that way anymore, but in large part because we followed the experts. Catch you soon.